when we come together, something beautiful happens. We can fight this thing, whatever it is, whether it's unequal pay or it's abuse. We could come together and we can endure anything. We can overcome anything because there's strength in numbers.
So as I prepared for this next session, I asked myself a few questions about community impact. And it's like, Janae, if you were mayor for the day, what would you change? And what community organization should have more focus and support right now? If there's one thing we know for sure, it's that none of us gets anywhere alone. So the next conversation and moment and exercise is about power of community, collective action, and building bridges that actually hold. So we will have a working session with Erin Loos Cutraro. And so get ready to be challenged and reminded that together really is better.
Hi everyone, I am Erin Loos Cutraro, founder CEO of She Should Run, and super grateful to be here today closing us out with action. So I'm gonna put you all to work. Just get ready for that. There's gonna be some conversation. There's gonna be a chance for you all to sort of walk away knowing there's a little something that you can do right now. That's the goal. But first, I wanna start, hold on, I have to work a slide, so bear with me and make sure I can do this. Here we go. So I wanna level set something that I wish I had better news about, which is progress overall for women's representation in elected office has stalled. Quick raise of hands if you all, did you know that? Did you know that's happened? Because most people don't. So there's a need to break through with that message because after the 2016 election, there was this huge surge of women that stepped up all levels of office, keeping in mind that we have over 500,000 elected offices in this country. We saw this huge surge, and then what we saw is a slowing. And organizations like She Should Run and our allies in the field were saying, whoa, what's happening? Something's happening, it's getting harder to make the case for women to run for office. And so sure enough, we went into this election cycle, we'll get into this election cycle. We went into this election cycle sounding the alarm that this was gonna be a tough year for women. And sure enough, you can see, I know that the slides that you're looking at, the numbers are hard to see, but just know this is over time. So women in Congress since 61, women nominees for state legislature since 99. And what you see there at the top is what I'm talking about. There's a stagnation. And in fact, in some places, there was actually areas that went backwards in representation. And unfortunately, that often, the places that take the hit for that most quickly are representation from marginalized communities. And we see it really at the closest to local level, which is what's most troubling to me, especially in the work we do. So I don't have to tell anyone in this room that we're seeing a real backlash against women's progress right now, right? Legally and culturally and politically. But what I really want to talk about today is something that I had a conversation with a number of you about. It feels pretty personal, which is women are overwhelmed. In this current chaos that we're seeing in politics, in just how hard everything is, there's an exhaustion, there's disconnection, there's a lot of uncertainty about how to make a difference in the world. So there we go. The big headline is that I want you to focus on in what you see here is that it's not just that women feel stuck about what to do, but we care deeply. I want you to focus on the care deeply part because our work at She Should Run has given us access to right now, over 100,000 women who have indicated they may run for office someday. And what we did after this very tough election was go to them first and say, how are you feeling? What sums up sort of the state of your mind right now, and how can we be helpful? And something that there was a whole load of confusion about how we can be helpful, but the thing that was clear across the board was that everyone said, I care so much in some way or another. And I heard that, I just want to point out, because I just appreciate the one-on-one conversations that I've had in between sessions about this. So many of you saying, like, what do we do right now? You are not alone in that. Also, I want to point out that the vast majority of Americans right now say that our country is headed in the wrong direction. Quick raise of hands of who's surprised about that one. Unfortunately, this is especially true for young people. There's just this sense that we are stuck in some way and in a lot of ways going backwards, and it's unclear when everything feels so broken what actions will actually matter. So let me take you to what we see in this disconnect. So this disconnect between I care, but I don't know what to do. So we see all of the things happening around, if it's climate or democracy or our rights. We don't know what's next. It's overwhelming, and we go about our days. We doom scroll. We amplify those things that maybe our friends are doing. Maybe some of us, by the way, this is not everyone, maybe some of us are, full-time activists, really in it in the day-to-day. But the vast majority of people are, in fact, going through their day like business is normal right now. And there's a word for this that's thrown around often, and kind of where we're sitting in this country right now, which is hyper-normalization. So it's a term that was coined in the final years of the Soviet Union, when things were real tough, and the government was lying openly about economic collapse, and folks went on with their days. People seemingly were playing along with like an illusion of normalcy, not because they believed it, but because they didn't know what they were supposed to be doing. So that same dissonance is what's happening right now in the United States. I can't speak for you all in this room. We're going to talk to one another and figure this out. But I certainly can speak for what we've seen in the She Should Run community, because we've done a lot of focus grouping and a lot of talking to a wildly diverse and interesting and motivated audience of women who are interested in running for office someday, and they're all saying that. They're all saying they just feel stuck. So it's not apathy, it's overload. And I just, especially for those of you that I was talking to between session, I just want to say again, it's not apathy. Because it can start to feel like it's apathy because you're not doing all of the things that you think you should be doing. The reality is we don't know what we need to be doing. And I want to bring up sort of another train of thought before we get into a little bit of discussion about that. And that is that paired with this like basic fire hose of information coming at us like just needing to get through the day, right? We're already incredibly taxed in terms of time and effort. We're facing a reality in the way that we connect with one another that looks very different than it did decades ago. So there's a sociologist out of Harvard, his name's Robert Putnam, and he wrote a book, I think the book is like 20 years old, called Bowling Alone. Is anybody familiar with Bowling Alone, the book? Super fascinating. Okay, so it's a study, again, heavy, but it's a study of like the collapse of American society community, the community that we once had. And it really comes back to a collapse of civic connection, which is what we're gonna get to. So, as our lives have gotten busier and our connections have, I don't want to point everything to have gone virtual, but a lot of our connections have gone virtual. We've made advancements, but that's also taken us into spaces and places where we're more isolated. Our social networks are more curated, and they're less in real life. They're less us looking at each other. And what that's looked like in our communities is a pullback in things like local clubs and congregations and town halls and people packing in for a town hall and PTA meetings being really full. And here's one, truly, there's amazing research on tracking how much less we're just having dinner with our neighbors. Sounds real basic, I know. But this is decline of social capital, okay? That's like a trust that happens when we're together with people who we haven't perfectly curated, that we're trying to understand them as human beings, and we're building trust, and we're building sort of shared norms about caring about one another. It's a reality of where we are. And the result of this is, in fact, paired with this time of just so much chaos, it just feels like there's so much chaos, makes us feel really stuck. So what we've been looking at is, how do we interrupt this cycle, right? The goal here is not, we can't fix everything, but what we also can't do is we can't pretend that that's just gonna be okay till the end of time. We're just gonna keep tracking in this direction where we're just not really dialing up and figuring out how to connect as human beings in our communities because we're so overwhelmed with everything that's happening all the time that we're like retreating with the few minutes that we have. So one big answer to this, one big solution to this is surprisingly simple, and that is local engagement. So what's interesting to me about this, and certainly the She Should Run community about this, is so much of She Should Run's programming, because we serve the starting line of women thinking about running for office, has always been about engaging in your community. It's always been about civic engagement, but we've never pulled it out and said, this is what it's about. This is the most important thing we can be doing right now. And yet, when we look at this moment right now, and we did real soul searching after this election and all the hardship in the gender equity space, which is real, to say, what's our responsibility right now? Is we realized that we had an opportunity to show up for our community and potentially a wider community to help sort of break some of this stuckness around what you can do right now that actually feels meaningful. So let me connect a dot for you. So a lot of what we're seeing with people feeling overwhelmed is that they feel overwhelmed because of national news, right? Like the news is hitting us. It was during the sessions, I'm not gonna lie. You're getting, some breaking news alerts. Why do I not turn those off, by the way? You're seeing things come through. You feel powerless in it. Like, what am I doing with that information right now? Nothing. I'm doing nothing with that information. I most definitely should turn that. Everybody should turn those off, by the way. But here's the reality: is that it's not to suggest you can't have an impact by engaging in conversations about actions that you can take at the national level, at the federal level. By the way, keep calling your members of Congress. I mean, the things that people point to immediately, like, I'm writing the postcards. I'm calling my members of Congress. I went to, I showed up at the virtual town hall. Don't stop doing that, and that is meaningful. But what I would like to help you see is that what happens nationally, those things that make you feel powerless in the day-to-day, always eventually show up locally. So when the Supreme Court rolls back reproductive rights, what happens to healthcare clinics for women locally? They close. When Congress stalls on climate policy, what happens? Your local neighborhood floods. When book bans make headlines, what happens? Your local librarian is in trouble trying to figure out how to navigate the day-to-day. And when Medicaid gets cut, huge conversation. Right now it feels so heavy, so big. What the hell do we do? Here's what's gonna happen is your local healthcare clinics that serve people who absolutely need those services are gonna struggle most. So I don't put that all out there to make you be like, oh, great, one more thing for me to think about. I put that out there because this is your moment to reclaim agency over your involvement there. So all of those connections that I just made allow you to think about, okay, these things are, if they have not already, gonna show up in your neighborhood or your neighboring a community or a community of your family member, and it's our chance to get our hands back on the wheel, is to think about where those things are that are right in front of us that we can actually show up for in a way that we can see. So this is where we're going to do a little talking. We're going to do a lot of talking. I wanted to give you the background. And I promise you I'm not going to leave you in a bad place. I know that I'm laying out a lot. You're like, whoa, okay. Keep in mind I just said get your hands back on the wheel. That's the goal here. How do we get our hands back on the wheel? So what I want you all to do is just take a moment, because here's a funny thing that happens. When we talk about, I'm not going to name names, but there were a number of you who talked to me of just the overwhelm that you feel right now, and I'm always like, everybody feels overwhelmed. I feel overwhelmed. Everybody feels overwhelmed. Is we start talking about local engagement, community engagement, and inevitably, people start to struggle to know what that looks like and why they don't do it. There's just this moment of like, yeah, why am I not doing that? So what I want you to do, because it's important, because it's a moment to just get real about why. Why do you think so many people who care so deeply, and I know everybody in this room cares deeply, and even in a wide audience, the majority of people care deeply. Why are they hesitating to get involved in their own communities or in that neighboring community that needs help? Why are we more likely to doom scroll than to turn that crap off and show up at, offer to volunteer at that clinic that's just desperate for any hands on deck that they can get right now? Why is that? So I'll ask you to turn to your table, to your neighbor. I'm going to give you like 2 minutes. And yes, I'm going to ask for a couple of people, so please help me out here, to share what it is once you've had a chance to discuss. So take 2 minutes. Why? The question is, why do you think so many people who care so deeply are hesitating to get involved? Because it is real, y'all. All right, so I'd love to hear from a couple folks. You don't have to tell me everything, but words that are popping up, or themes that you're hearing about why so many people who care so deeply are like pausing right now. Why are they having a hard time? I saw a hand over here, yes.
Hi, I think we have 2 at our table, so I'll
Great.
go first, and then I'll pass it to you.
I love that.
I'm Jennifer Wong, and I run a nonprofit that gets older adults together on Zoom or by phone to build community for homebound older adults all across New York. And pleased to be here with Allison and Janae, of course. I am a firm believer that capitalism has taken away the acts of small favors. Yeah. And so we was talking to my colleagues about we no longer ask our neighbor for a cup of sugar, we just DoorDash it. We don't ask or offer our girlfriend a trip to, oh, I'm hearing yeses.
Yeah,
we don't offer
it's real.
our girlfriends trips to the airport because we know that Uber Black's got them. And so I think by not doing these small favors, we don't even borrow clothes from our friends anymore. We rent them. This is rented. It's gorgeous, but you know, maybe a girlfriend had something really cute in their closet too. So because we no longer do small favors, we can't do big favors.
Yeah.
We are less likely to show up weekly or monthly to volunteer, or less likely to do these things. And so, and also we don't automatically see the reward, even though we know that volunteering, it gives us great, there's plenty of research out there, Robert Putnam and more, about how it actually benefits us to be a part of community and for us to be volunteering. Heard talks of lowering cortisol, it's a big one. Yeah. So I urge us to start small, to do the small favor. Drive to LAX, I dare you. And ask a girlfriend to borrow a dress.
Yes.
Or a purse if you're not the same size. I think it'll start to spark that community that we're looking for, and it'll get us less off our phones.
Here, here, here. I love that we went right to a solution. Of course, in this room, we're going to go right to a solution. It's okay, too, if you're just telling us what you heard a little bit. Like, what's the struggle?
I'm Pat Johnson. I work for UBS Private Wealth in Century City. And We developed a really close community during COVID. I'm from the Palisades. And I think prior to that, we all went to our jobs, and we didn't really know our neighbors. I've always had dogs, so I would know the dog people.
Yeah.
Always remember the dog names, never the people's names.
That's real.
But during COVID, we developed this really tight community. And because I had a front fenced yard, you know, people would stop over, and Fridays we do something, Tuesdays we do something. But also, we started helping each other. Neighbor getting divorced, going through a tough time, you know, making sure I was there to go to her daughter's graduation because the husband wasn't around. And I think you're absolutely right. You have to start. We did ask our neighbors for an egg or sugar or whatever you need. But I think that, you know, it's hard in certain parts of the country because people are so spread out. And trying to, I think, start with your immediate neighbors. Get to know them.
Yes.
And I think the small things do matter. And we stay on a chat right now. We do some Zoom meetings, but it's obviously not the same.
Yeah.
And so right now, it's my work community. I say that's where I'm kind of normal. Moving 8 times with 3 dogs has been just a nightmare, but I've been settled for 2 weeks, and it's like a big difference. So I think, again, reach out to your neighbors, reach out to people that you didn't meet, and just introduce yourself and do the small things.
Yeah. I just want to validate, you know, people like to talk about sort of acts of resistance, joy being an act of resistance. I consider what you're describing to be the same, is sort of resisting our default of not asking the question if someone needs something or doing the thing. And there's so much lost there, so much lost opportunity, especially, and I just want to shout out the piece, and we'll come back to this, I'm sure, but the effect of mental health struggles right now that are correlated with what's happening with this decline in social capital and in real life connection and what that means for civic engagement and beyond. It's all a lot, but at the end of the day, just knowing that just little simple things you can do can disrupt that cycle. I think it's really important. I will say some things that I've heard in other rooms, in addition to the small things we can do, are I don't do it because I don't have time. I don't do it because it doesn't feel obvious. I don't do it because I'm just not sure it matters. The matters part is tough. And I think, you know, you hit on it with the reward. I have somebody from, oh, here we go. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Hi, my name is Yasmin Friedman. I think for me, when I look at this, and again, I come from a political background, so I had worked in politics for a minute. I think it's frustrating for some people that I come from a time when politics worked across the aisle, it didn't matter. And I think now what I'm seeing is if I can't agree with someone, I'm suddenly put in a corner where I'm enemies with them, and I don't necessarily feel those things. But I think what's frustrating is when I look around, it's like, how do I even have conversations with people these days without, 1, offending them, and 2, standing in my own truth and telling the truth of what I may feel that may differ from them. I think that is a big reason for me personally as to why I'm not ready to step back into the political game.
Yeah, I appreciate the honesty there. And that is a real challenge right now. And there is not a simple solution to that. I will just tell you right now. It is something that comes up in every room that I'm in, is just that real pain and frankly, it being unclear about how to connect. The flip side of that is, and I think we'll get to this, is to think about seeing someone as human as much as possible, the best possible case for why they may believe something that's different than you, and connecting with them about sugar versus something that feels really hard first, just to see, just to test it. But it's also okay to give yourself permission that you just can't do that right now. It's okay. I we'll get to more, don't worry, we'll get to more chatter. I want to introduce a way that She Should Run is thinking about this, because I want to make sure to invite you all to it through this conversation. So we had a lot of thinking post-election about how we could pull out our civic engagement work and meet this moment, what feels like is needed in this moment. And so we started a project that we are very open and honest is very much in beta mode. We are learning about what is going to work right now, because we're in a moment that's not like any other moment. So we're trying to figure out what is needed right now. So we started a project called She Will Fight. We can talk about the fight word if we'd like. We wanted to be in a place where we could make a case that it is important to fight for things that you believe in. It is important to fight for your community. It is important for you to fight for a belief that things don't just have to be the way they are, is what it comes down to. That is ultimately hope. Hope is not just absent optimism, like I'm going to close my eyes and throw the covers over my head because I have optimism, this is all going to work out. Hope is believing that there are actions I can take that could make the situation a little better. So She Will Fight at its core, here's where we started the project, is a digital platform, and I'll give you a glimpse of what it looks like. It's a digital platform that helps women take meaningful civic actions and know that they matter. Couple words that matter in that are simple and that they matter. Because we heard loud and clear when we started testing what we wanted to do that people are like, please don't make me do something difficult. Please don't start with something really hard that I just am gonna not be able to do right out the gate. And I think, most interestingly, is that people wanna know that their time matters. And they have to see that other people are doing a thing in order to know. It's just how we operate. Like, does this matter? Does the sugar matter? Oh, wait, like, most people are doing that, and I'm not doing that. Who am I? I'm using that example. But so at its core, it is, again, a very simple digital platform. I keep looking up here like it's up here. I wanted to give you examples of the types of things that we're encouraging people to do. Learn who makes decisions in your community. Hey, y'all, most of us don't know the answer to that. I just want to just if you're like, I don't know the answer to that, it's okay, because like 99% of the population doesn't know who is sitting in positions of power in their very local community, because we are very much overwhelmed with what's happening at the national level. Understanding what local leaders in nonprofits, in elected office, what do they actually have control over? Following and supporting local journalism. I don't want to go over all of them, but I wanted to give you a sense of what we're talking about. We started there, and we're in beta because we're sort of testing, okay, here's the reality. She Should Run has always been about helping women who want to run for office someday, but we all need to be, I'm going to pull from on the course, as was said earlier. We all need to be on the course right now. So at our core, we're still thinking about, okay, how can we get more women queued up to run someday? The reality is we all need to be doing something right now. So we're playing around with a few different ways that this will eventually form into, likely, a cohort of women who might run for office someday, who are trying to figure out how to show up right now, and others who want to support that kind of leadership right now. This is kind of, you're getting a peek at where this is going. We started in a broad place. We're like, okay, we see where this needs to go. So what I want to do, knowing that this is where we are, knowing this is what we're learning, here's what would be helpful from you all. I would like to give you a couple of, let's just take like 2 minutes real quick to answer a question of, force yourself to think, what are the opportunities that actually exist in your community? And it's okay if you don't have an answer for that, listen to other people talking, because sometimes it's really like, I actually have no idea what opportunities exist. And again, want to give you permission, like that's okay. We kind of have to hear it before we go, okay, I get it. Okay, school board meetings, maybe there's something going on with a nonprofit, maybe there's something going on where there's a community that really has a lot of needs. So take just a couple of minutes, and what I would add to this, for any Gen Zers in the room, because I want to hear this, is I'm going to merge these two questions that you see up here, because I think it is so important for us to look to the next generation and understand what they're seeing right now. How are they seeing people respond to this moment in their communities? So any Gen Zers that are willing to take that one on, take just another 2 minutes. What opportunities are you seeing, and what's like motivating peers to take action right now? Think local. I know this is hard. Think local. Okay, I'm going to force you to share, because now I'm just real curious and feeling lonely up here. Wrap up your thought, and then I want to hear it. And this is where the magic happens of us just knowing this is a community that's coming from all over, and I think what you see is so important to hear about. So let's hear some of your stories. What opportunities exist in your community or neighboring communities? And if you want to give the Gen Z perspective what you're seeing, I want to hear that that's what you're doing too.
Hello, everyone, again. Demir Pierre here. So I'm a native of Compton, California. And so one of the things that I've been doing for the last 4 years is a very small thing, which is giving back in terms of like youth sports. So I'm a volunteer girls basketball coach. And so what I tell people all the time, I'm like, the small impact of getting involved with youth in sort of way, like it takes time, but you can really see the fruit of what you're doing because you're investing in the next generation. And so if you do it long enough, you'll start to see like kids go through the program. You're like, oh, they really did listen to what I was saying. So those are a small entryway to kind of get involved in your local communities, like youth sports and youth-centered activities.
100%. Thank you for sharing that. Yes.
Hi, everyone. My name is Cicely Oseguera. I'm a college student. I'm going into my senior year. Well, I am in my senior year at Sacramento State. I'm also president. I'm also president of my sorority, Phi Sigma Sigma. And the challenge I have of kind of getting my peers to take action is they don't think they're like, for the future generation, they don't know how to take on these leadership roles, or they don't know what the right steps are, or how to feel motivated. So what I kind of struggle with is how to get them to know that they can take action and know that they can take leadership roles, and they aren't as scary as they seem. So that's kind of the challenge I feel with the future generation coming in. Even after our college life, sorority life is not our whole life. So even after college, what are we going to do to take action to make sure that we are bettering our future for success?
So important. That's so important. Thank you for sharing. What else?
In terms of little things in terms of people finding resources, I got an example of 2 city council people here in LA, and they send out weekly emails with very specific things, even about, we have an arts council, we're looking for people to be on the board. They're pets for adoption. I mean, really specific things that are both happening in the community, but things you can do and get involved in.
Yes.
Really makes a difference. And it's so simple to read. It's right there in your mailbox, and it just zip through it.
Awesome. Yes, it is on our action center of like sign up, find that newsletter. You're on plenty of other ones. Find that local one. What else?
Hi, everyone. I'm Amy. I'm a first-timer. It's nice to meet so many wonderful people this day. So I'm going to go the other complete direction and talk about some things that are happening in my local community around a neighborhood watch. Okay. So we've set up a WhatsApp group. Unfortunately, we've had some bad stuff happening in our neighborhood recently. Very organized criminals, actually, that are breaking into homes in the middle of the day. People are at home working. So there's a lot of stuff going on. And so someone set up the WhatsApp group, and it's been wonderful to know what's happening. And now we all are like, are you not home right now? We'll go by your house. People get in their cars. I'm like, oh my God, is everyone going to be okay? Like, they're organized, but it's low level. There's no weapons involved and things like that. So, so that's been really great. And so one of the things that we're certainly contributing to that, but there's some older folks that are at home all the time. And so one of them has gotten like LAPD radio. Yes. And so we'll get the notice on the WhatsApp, LAPD flying overhead, this is what they're going to be doing. I'm like, oh my God, thank you, because I'm always so stressed out when they're overhead. And so I've been reaching out to those people who keep us informed and thanking them.
Yes.
And like just being part of the community and saying, Stephen, thank you so much for always letting us know what LAPD is doing in the community and in the neighborhood.
Yes.
It really helps me calm down.
Yes.
And he's like, oh my gosh, thank you for the thank you.
Yes,
know?
double dose, I was
So,
going to say.
Yeah, and it's not the sugar and the egg, but it is that like what you're doing matters.
Yeah.
What you're doing matters to me, and thank you for it. So
Yes.
small to
beautiful.
Nancy's point, it's just a small thing.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, hi, I'm Danielle Dorfman. I have a PR firm called DDPR. It's just me. So solopreneur, but I work with wonderful people, including Jess Weiner, who used to be a client. We still chat. But one of the organizations that I do work with is Meals on Wheels America. And you said something that triggered for me that every community has elderly people who can't get out and can't get their food, and government is messing up with budgets in that area as well. So everybody here could easily just find out where there's a Meals on Wheels in their community and volunteer to drop some food off to people who can't do it themselves.
Boom. Yes. Yes. I love this. Keep going. Anybody else?
Hi.
Yes.
Okay, this is working. My name is Ella. I'm a rising junior at NYU. I study neuroscience and public policy. And after October 7th on campus, regardless of anyone's political views, there was a lot of chaos. Yeah. And so my friends and I were trying to figure out how do we discuss violence against women that occurred on October 7th. I was privileged enough to participate in conversations in New York about what had happened, but also acknowledging that it is a very nuanced subject and there is history on all sides and conflict occurs everywhere. But the baseline is that, you know, women deserve to be respected, their bodies. It was only 30 years ago that rape was actually acknowledged as a war transgression, which is kind of crazy. But we started meeting on Zoom like once a week and just talking. And what it turned into was holding a space for everyone to talk about the chaos that was going on each week. There was about between 20 to, sometimes we would hit 30, but not really, across the nation. We had students all over, and a lot of them were my friends or friends of friends, and every week we started by just talking about what was upsetting us. And I think that one of the most important things was that we created a space to feel heard and to feel seen. And we felt like we were working towards something, you know, that actually had a tangible action goal where we could create, you know, content modules and social media posts. And then what was a little frustrating, to be honest, was almost a lack of like intergenerational translation, where the content and the Instagram posts that we're creating, we know is going to hit our audience, but kind of seems really childish if you're like seeing a Twilight-based meme about, you know, women's body rights online. And so kind of trying to figure out how to navigate those spaces and translate between not only like how we interact with media, but how other generations and other kinds of communities act, and then looking at globally where there are places, right? Like conflict-based sexual violence isn't just happening in Israel and Gaza, it's happening in the Democratic Republic of Congo and in Syria, and it's happened in Libya and Yemen, and there are all of these places. And then that crazy thing was, wait, but the way that they understand their culture, right? If you look at female genital mutilation in Ghana, that got protected because most women voted for it. And we in the States think, oh, morally that's so crazy. But it's culturally normal for them. And so kind of trying to find that level of understanding to be able to translate and communicate between different disciplines, I think was like the most important aspect of being able to put our passion towards like creating the opportunities, because we had the energy and the passion for it, and moving towards that, even if it didn't feel, you know, at the moment specifically tangible, but knowing that, you know, the knowledge and the accumulation of those kinds of conversations were what were saving us in the moment from the daily crazy Trump stuff and all of that, what was going on, and just knowing that the space existed because we had the technology to do so, and feeling very fortunate for that. And so I think that really, you know, creating more spaces for younger voices to be heard by older generations, and really understanding that, like, your voice does have an impact. And the way that a therapist, helps an individual, like, just by feeling seen and being heard, I think I said that correctly, that might have been inverse, but, was really important. So spaces like this I really appreciate, and I think that, I'm hoping that next year there's more Gen Zers here, because their voices, would love to probably participate in this conversation as well. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing. I think, look, there's a couple things that you said that I just want to both validate and offer the note that I hear regularly, which is this piece of a sort of respect that's needed around an intergenerational difference in how we approach doing things that matter, that we all have to kind of check ourselves on. What somebody is doing over here may not look like it matters to me, but in fact it does. And why am I concerned? What am I doing is what is important. And the second point is that something that I'm hearing across the board is, and I only have one more question, but is that what you don't realize is happening when you're making these connections in your community, when you're volunteering on the sports team, when you're organizing with other students, is that you are building a community of people, and you're doing something that is giving you a little bit of relief, a little bit of purpose, which is what we need, and it's also giving you a network that, should something else emerge that is of great need, that you have a community to go to and say, let me tell you about this thing that needs help over here. Or that someone in your community, or that you've now connected with, a neighborhood group, a sports group, there's a family in need. If you're not out there doing that work, you would know. You would know there's a family in need that you could step up and help. So it's hard to see in the moment, and I think that's a piece of this. Like, we have to get beyond it. It doesn't feel big in the moment, but it matters over time. So I will close with one last question. And that is, I would love for everyone in this room to take a moment to think about what your role is right now. So I'll look at it through the she will fight perspective. We're doing a lot of our work right now thinking about, okay, so much in the political system is tied to an election cycle. So many people in politics are talking about midterms, right? I'm like, great. What are we doing right now? What are we doing right now? What is our role right now? If somebody were to, in the next generation, come to us in the next lifetime and say, how did you show up right now? What would you want your role to be? That role could be, as a leader, you're like, you know what, I need to step up, this is my time, I know I wanted to lead that initiative. It could be as somebody who is supporting the person who is doing that. It could be as somebody who is amplifying the thing that needs to be done. It could be somebody who's connecting the people that need to get the thing done. Something you can do right here in this room is just take that second to say, okay, I don't know what my role is going to be in 6 months, but here's how I see my role in the next 2 months. Here's what I can do right now. I can lean in a little harder in this thing. So I hope many of you are thinking about running for office someday. I hope, if not that, you're thinking about what your role is right now to disrupt this thing that feels really hard. And I hope you know that you can put your hand back on that wheel. And that the answer is right around in your community. You just gotta look for it, and you have to be willing to know it's not gonna feel huge, it's gonna feel small, and that is enough. That is enough, day by day. So I'll close with that. Thank you so much. Oh, also, if you wanna join She Will Fight, I encourage you to do so. It is open to anyone and know that we're still figuring it out. So you're going to come along in a journey with us. So thank y'all.
All right, ladies. All right. Thank you, Erin, so much for that amazing exercise, because we all needed to talk amongst ourselves and understand what we're doing in our communities.